the representatives from the two countries met 160 times on the issue of Taiwan. There have been 3 joint communiques on that particular issue. I have to ask today, people that are in the American government, how many of them actually have understand this history and have read the communiques? Right now, the direction is decoupling between the two countries in terms of technology, if you look at AI and all this. But if you look at over the next 45 years, I think this decoupling is going to reverse for 2 reasons.
喺睇片之前，大家記得分享、讚好同訂閱灼見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁你就唔會錯過我哋嘅最新影片。
Let's put on our businessman's hat, talk about the economics. You know, I don't want us to just focus on geopolitics and sweep away, which I think is the big elephant in the room. What the hell do we do about the economy? You know? That's ultimately people's livelihood and what's really important to all of us at the end of the day. So from your standpoint, Joe, you know, you're one of the, you know, really most important businessmen in this region, if not the world, and you've seen it all. How are you handling this? And especially from your perspective, not any specifics, but from generally from the perspective of a new factor that's introduced into this whole equation in my mind is how fast technology is developing globally, how it impacts the business, the economy, and how it impacts security, to be honest. What is your perspective? And really, please, put on a businessman's hat. How do you see this? How do you work your company in the midst of what we have discussed up to now?
Yeah, Victor, thank you so much for the question. And I do want to thank QSEF for giving me the opportunity to exchange views in front of such distinguished guests and also a very distinguished panel here. Before I address your question, Victor, I do want to echo something that President Tadich has said about the lack of communication and lack of understanding. I'm from Taiwan. I was born and raised in Taiwan with parents originally from Shanghai. And so on the issue of Taiwan, it's something that is absolutely important for the Chinese people and the Chinese government. I still remember Dr. Henry Kissinger once said that you know, before the normalization of relationships between the United States and China, the two countries met, the representatives from the two countries met 160 times on the issue of Taiwan. And there have been 3 joint communiques on that particular issue. So I have to ask today, people that are in the American government, how many of them actually have understand this history and have read the communiques? And that's, I'm saying that because a lot of understanding is based on history, based on the historical development. And I would say today's position of China on Taiwan has not changed, and it's derived from those discussions and those communiques. So I say that to say that the understanding has to be, people really have to go back to history. And I think it's quite relevant that we're going back to 45 years of history. But before, I want to address the technology question specifically, but the 45 years has been relevant to Alibaba for the last 25 years. I can't say 45 because we've only existed for 25 years, founded in 1999. And in fact, the first website that Alibaba has developed was in English language. It is in English language because it was a site for us to put all the information of Chinese manufacturers on the site for people who want to source globally. Americans, Europeans, people who want to buy manufactured products. And it was back in 1999, really on the cusp of China entering the WTO in 2001. And thanks to Ambassador Barshevsky, who worked so hard to make that happen. Alibaba flourished because of the WTO, because you literally have millions and millions of small businesses, small factories in China that can now directly export to the United States and to the rest of the world. And that was because of the China's entry into the WTO. And since those times, I have seen China evolve from a manufacturing base, and today it is still a manufacturing powerhouse because China still has the largest population of most industrious people and highly educated people. But we have evolved, China has evolved from being a manufacturing base to now also the world's largest consumer market. And again, you think Alibaba is a consumer shopping website because of Taobao. But Taobao didn't really take off until 10 years after we started that import-export website. So I've tracked the development of China's development is very much supporting and underlies the development of Alibaba today. And today, by all counts, there's about 400 million middle-class consumers in China that want to buy, that want to consume. They want to buy from all over the world. And that's the opportunity for a lot of companies. And Mr. B has talked about American companies, 80,000 American companies doing business in China, and 90% of them are profitable. The last time I checked, American companies make over $10 billion US dollars of operating profits in China. And it's a very, very good symbiotic relationship between China and the United States. So that's the backdrop because I'm just looking at it from my own Alibaba experience. Your question about technology, it's actually one of the most difficult issues to address. And that's because technology has become the flashpoint of tension between the United States and China. From the United States standpoint, the rise of China as an economic power is, they're fearful of it, but specifically the technology, they're fearful that technology will drive further economic gains. And from China's perspective, all the restrictions that's been put in place today, for example, export restrictions on high-end chips and things like that, is really an excuse to slow down China, right? So both sides have very different perspectives on the same issue. What I think what needs to be done is, rather than focusing on technology as the flashpoint, I hope that the next set of conversations between China and the United States can focus on some of the not direct issues, because technology is direct. NVIDIA chips cannot be exported to China. That's a bilateral issue. But I think the conversation can start with multilateral issues. We have trouble spots in the world. There's Russia, Ukraine, there's Israel, Iran. And those areas, both countries have common interests. And if the conversation can start with, get people getting together and figuring out how do we resolve some of these hot conflicts, rather than focusing on the trade or terrorists, or the trade, terrorists, technology restrictions are bilateral issues. But I think maybe there are trouble spots in the world that are even more important to resolve than focused on these flashpoints.
Thank you very much, Joe. I'm so glad you're able to give that perspective. Because as I said earlier, I think at the end of the day, I'm biased, but it's about economics and people's livelihood. And we've got to bring ourselves back to that. But on the question of technology, I mean, you're the expert, and I can't agree with you more. You know, I think perhaps one way of thinking through this and making it not a flashpoint, which it is really to still think about not only bilateral but on a multilateral basis, how we can all work together to apply technology to solve some of the big problems in the world today, like poverty and the reconstruction of old industries, provide more jobs, and importantly, on the climate issue. So if we can turn this flashpoint of technology not into just advancing the state of the art, if that's the way to put it, and applying it to military use, think about applying that technology to actually civilian use and how to make the world better. And that, I think, is a common goal and could be a focal point for the future of multilateral discussions. What about the future of multilateralism? How can we think about this bilateral relationship in the context of the multilateral system, not just in isolation? Maybe you could just give a 1-minute thing on what you think about the future, the next 45 years. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the next 45 years, I'll answer in terms of technology. Right now, the direction is decoupling between the two countries in terms of technology. If you look at AI and all this, maybe it'll last maybe the next 5 years. But if you look at over the next 45 years, I think this decoupling is going to reverse for two reasons. Number one, it's very expensive and it takes very long to develop key technologies. And there should be a division of responsibility in terms of some technologies where the countries can collaborate together. It would be less costly that way. And number two, the United States and China are not the only countries in the world. There are third-party countries. So they're not going to choose, I only use American technology or I only use Chinese technology. They're going to stay neutral and find the best of breed technology. And so at some point, this trend of decoupling, people will realize it's just silly, and people need to work together on that.
中意名家分析，記得俾 like 同埋分享，支持同訂閱卓見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁就唔會錯過我哋嘅新片。